Hey guys, Halen here, founder and CEO of ScaleMate. Today I'm going to be breaking down a pitch call. So this is my second call with a prospect. We've done discovery, I've asked all the questions under the sun. I have a decent understanding of funding, where they are in their growth journey, which geographies they're focusing on, all that sort of stuff. Now it's my turn to do a little bit more discovery at the beginning of a call, but then pitch essentially and give them numbers and all that sort of stuff. So let's get into it.
Okay, there's a lot there. 100%. I would just take a huge step back from the platform product side of the discussion because I think that is a second tier problem to selling.
Okay, the reason why I say that, and it's definitely my firm position that this is true, product comes second to sales and marketing. No one gives a fuck if you have the best product in the world. If you can't sell it, no one cares. I always tell founders this.
First step is who to sell to, who's the right buyer, what's the right use case. Maybe there's slight marketing content adjustments and maybe product adjustments, but uh, looking at your current customers, i.e., the COOs, and who else you have in there, you mentioned. So that's not super broad. That's not crazy broad. I mean, if it's SaaS companies, you've just eliminated every single other industry. So like, that's always the payoff. Oh, sorry, always the trade-off. If you eliminate something, you have to be comfortable that that is no longer getting attention. So
This is in regards to the ideal customer profile. And basically, broadly speaking, what it means is the tighter you get on a customer profile, meaning the types of companies you go after and the types of contacts you go after within those companies, you have to be okay with not giving the ones you could give attention to any attention. They are eliminated. Your focus, prioritization is on this specific set of prospects. You are trying, and again, trading off the specificity for a market-wide approach that might be relevant to some people, might not be. I guess in simpler terms, and what works with SaaS companies is the more specific you get on a customer profile, the more your messaging will resonate, the more you're going to learn about that individual person or that individual business function or individual industry, just depends. Companies that try to go wide and just don't have a focus, you can't build for everyone. You have to solve very, very specific problems and over time have a plan to upsell, cross-sell, get into other functions of the business, etc., etc., etc. So starting very small for a startup is typically best practice. And again, I always tell founders that.
just create the highest possible percentage chance that you've chosen correctly, and then you do as many as you can within reason. You can't just go to everyone in the market and everyone looks at your website and goes, "What the hell's this?" That doesn't make sense. So you do need.
There you go. That was the messaging point, right? If you have something that's for everyone, then someone's going to go to your website and go, I have no idea what the hell's going on. Believe me, that is the biggest reason people leave a website is because they don't know what you do.
Some constraints. SaaS only is a good one. Size of company is a good one. Where I think the issue is job title, function, and seniority. So
Okay, so every single customer profile and every single founder that comes to me has some idea of a customer segment they want to target, but within those parameters, there's one or two areas where they're like, I have no idea about this. In this instance, this was the function of the person that you want to target. So they had a very tight grasp on where they want to start from an industry standpoint. They did not have a tight grasp on who's the right person within that industry or that company to go after. There were some pretty clear no-goes, like don't want to touch, XYZ function, sales, HR, whatever it is. But then there was there was quite a few functions where it's like, we could do this, our product kind of does that, it speaks to this person, blah, blah, blah. That's my job to go and test. So the way that you would design an experiment is you have buckets of contacts within each function that you want to target. And then it's simple. Who responds the best? Who has the highest conversion rates? And when we talk to these people on a discovery call, who converts to a second call? Who converts to a trial? And just monitoring that, doing it very scientifically, very intentionally, and you'll eventually see there'll be patterns that emerge. It's like, all right, these are the types of people who I want to target, and here's why.
because you mentioned a competitor last time at 3.6 billion or something, so I was like, I found them.
Competitive landscape. Last time on my discovery call, this founder didn't tell me who it was, but he did mention that they're a $3.6 billion company. So I Googled around and I basically found out who that competitor was. That's actually one of my key approaches, is to go and target their audience, right? So that's heavily dependent in my pitch is I know a little bit about the market, a little bit about the competition. Again, builds trust. They understand that I have done some research on the back end in between the first call and the second call.
Getting COOs, operations, CTOs, CIOs, maybe you mentioned HR a few times. That's starting to broaden quite a bit, but you can bucket those. Like, not hard for me to go and get that data and then just target 1,000 each. Interesting if you could dig into the usage data and then reverse engineering that into your ICP tests.
The approach that I take is pretty consultative. Hey, we could try this, we could try this. Here's why, here's why. I try to explain stuff along the way. Here's one that's pretty good for startups that have a decent customer base, right? They've got like a couple, maybe 6, 7, 8 clients, depending on if they're enterprise, mid-market, whatever. There's a lot of usage data that you can get out of your products. So how are people actually interacting with your products will then give to me what are the top use cases. That can go into my messaging. We can split it up by the ICP. Whole bunch of information comes from that, and it's just a little bit smarter way of targeting people and prospects.
That's right. Some of them are solving a very specific problem that people know about and are aware of, or they're trying to displace a technology that already exists. With yours, it's a little bit newer. While the problem does exist, yes, they might not be aware of the problem yet. So
the customer awareness curve, right? So they start by not being aware the problem exists, they become aware, and then they're ready to buy. Something like that. Don't quote me on that graph. I've seen it a million times, just can't remember. So it depends on the startup you're talking to. I said it in this. Some startups solve a very particular problem. They're actually trying to displace an existing technology that already exists. For example, if I were to start a CRM company, I need to get HubSpot and Salesforce out of there. Everyone knows what a CRM is. In the newer age of tech, right, there's problems that customers aren't even aware can be solved. With those types of companies, you cannot do the same discovery methodology that you can with an existing space. You're trying to create a category, very reliant on education. So startups often have this trouble. They'll ask questions and the prospect's like, what? Like, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. So in this case, and I think I'm about to get into it here, I'm watching this live as well. I don't remember the exact point at which I explained this, but I think I'm about to get into how that changes your approach to discovery. Let's see. So I'll get into this on a separate slide, but the way I think about it is more, instead of questioning, it's more prompting. There you go, I got into it. So instead of questioning, it is more prompting. So you want to prime the prospect's mind with potential problem areas. So you want to give them customer stories, user stories, case studies. Hey, this is how HR leaders use our software because of this problem. How does that resonate with you? Giving them a few different examples is always good, but it gets people thinking. Like, people aren't sitting there listening to your discovery questions like, oh my God, yes, and really thinking. No, they're, depending on how engaged they are, depending on how motivated they are to solve the problem, they might not be really digesting this information and thinking about how it manifests inside their organization. So giving them those prompts is super helpful. And you're probably going to get better results, especially if you're trying to create a category and you're doing something quite different.
Here's the other challenges: is go-to-market stuff. There's a lot of products out there to deliver an effective lead generation strategy, research, whole bunch of different platforms, whole bunch of different connections. Do they all talk together? All this sort of stuff. These are some of the ones I use, not only for me, but for clients as well. There's 4 or 5 competitors in each.
This is the point where I explain the go-to-market challenge from a technology perspective. There is a million tools out there in the market. There's CRM systems, there's meeting recorders like this to do transcriptions and AI prioritization, all that sort of stuff. There's communication channels for notifications of leads, there's email automation, there's LinkedIn automation, there's data enrichment. There's a lot going on. Now, I do this day in, day out. I have changed tech stack for reasons. I've changed providers for very particular reasons. I've used a lot of them. I've used their competitors. I've had demos from them. I'm in it all day, every day, right? I think I'm using best of breed product, and at least the setup I have is very, very efficient because I've just maximally optimized for automation. Now, a founder doesn't have this type of time. So they are not going to literally invest and sit down in the level of workflow integration that I have done. And at least at the beginning, they're not going to do that until they hire a chief revenue officer, VP of sales, sales ops, rev ops, whatever. So being able to leverage someone like myself to do this at the initial stages and then kind of show you how to do it and teach you how to do it is, I think, a smart move, even though I'm biased, obviously.
Testing specific hypotheses. This is when we get on the calls. So you're going to have your problem opportunity statements that you have in your head. My job is to synthesize those and then go and prompt and ask questions when we're on the calls.
On a discovery call that I've booked in one of my service packages, you basically get me as like a fractional employee, fractional VP of sales. So on the call, I'm there. The prep leading up to that call is building like a discovery methodology, essentially. Each one's different for every customer, obviously. There are some key discovery points that every founder wants to know. So some of it could be competitive intel, some of it could be problem related, how they view the problem, whatever it is. Basically, I design a document and questions to go and test their market thesis, right? So they'll have some beliefs about the US. We're testing whether they're true or false, basically. Now, the byproduct of that, I obviously do all the analysis and all that sort of stuff, but the byproduct of that is pipeline. So you have now built on one of these calls quite a significant level of trust with whoever your target audience is, because you're asking very, very pointed, deep questions to get people to think about the problem space or the opportunity that we're presenting, right? Yes, it's a sales call, heavy focus on learning. And the natural byproduct of that is opportunities and pipeline.
Here's the crunch time.
Yep.
And hopefully can show you I can demonstrate value with the numbers here, right? So I've done a lot of number crunching.
Specifically for my business, like I'm selling sales, right? So the fact that I can close someone should be, or at least get them excited and start them to think about wanting to close, even at that point, is actually my pitch, right? So if I can do it for myself, why couldn't I do it for you? Or why can't my team do it for you, right? So it is interesting, even to the point of, well, I got you on a meeting. Do you not think I can get someone else on a meeting for you? Like, I got you here. So there is a little bit of that. The proof's in the pudding, I guess. So I always try to use that in my pitching.
Well, that's what I say when I get on a prospecting call. I'm like, hey, got you on a call. So
Closing, which was, obviously a great result. I obviously can't take you through every single thing that we do on a call or show the other side or the whole conversation because it's obviously quite private. But hopefully this shows you at least my thinking behind a pitch and kind of the way I approach sales, quite consultative. And, if you have any questions, if you would like to chat with me directly, then feel free to send me a DM.